One thing that people keep fixating on with Mr. Pandaria is that you need to do loads and loads of dailies. People seem to really think that these factions in Mr. Pandaria are far more important than they actually are. So I kind of want to dispel that myth. You're right if you think the factions were important in a pre-5.4.8 state, as in the final patch state, but the way we play Classic is normally in that final patch state from launch with all the class balances and minor changes to systems throughout. One of the biggest changes during Mist of Pandaria was no longer lock-in Valor Point items behind Reputation, which, let's face it, think about any version of World of Warcraft. When have you got to grind out Reputation to be able to then grind out Valor to then get your cap each week to be able to spend it? It just made no sense. So when it comes to actual PvE, there's only really two important reputations, and that's Klaxxi and Golden Lotus. Now, for both Klaxxi and Golden Lotus, of course, you can do dailies to get the reputation, and it will take a few weeks for you to hit Exalted. But on your way to level 90, if you go to the Dread Waste at level 89 and do all the quests, you'll be halfway to Revered before you're even ready to start doing any dailies anyway. The good news is both the Klaxxi and the Golden Lotus, which both give pre-raid BIS items for every single class, can actually be grinded out. I want to say in one sitting, but the Klaxxi grind is actually particularly painful, but Golden Lotus you'll knock out in a raid group in a couple of hours. But just to fly through the factions, the Anglers don't really have anything outside of fishing related items that you're going to want. So of course if you like fishing, then getting things like the Angler's Raft will be pretty cool. Nat Pagel's hat to never need lures again. Nat's fishing chair, which is just purely aesthetic. And you can do dailies and you can go around fishing rares up each day. But overall, quite honestly, we can just rule this out and say this is not a must-have reputation if all you're interested in is PvE. The August Celestials might not seem like an important one when you look at actually what comes from them, because you think, well, the only people that are going to need to do this is Enchanters, because this is where at Revered, Enchanters are going to get the big primary stat Enchanter Bracers. But you don't want to sleep on at least just getting to Honoured, and getting to Honoured will take no time at all. In fact, my main goal will only be to get to Honoured and not worry about anything else, because of the Celestial Offering. Now, the Celestial Offering won't be useful to begin with, but when you're at the Jade Serpent Temple, or the Red Crane, or the Black Ox, or the White Tiger, you're going to get a primary stat increase, and it depends on which one of them you're in to what stat you're actually going to get. Now, you can just literally get this and keep it in your bank, and it will still work. Now, the reason this is useful is because later on in the Legendary Quest line, you're going to have to go and do a bit of a challenge at each one of these temples. So, for example, as a Strength or Agility user, when you're at the White Tiger doing the challenge there for your Legendary Cloak, you're going to get 10% increased Strength and Agility. So while it's not important early on, just making sure at some point throughout the first couple of phases you actually get to Honoured, then this will be worth buying and just putting in your bank and more or less forgetting about. But quite honestly, outside of being a tailor to get the 28 slot bag recipe, or enchanters getting the bracer recipes, August Celestials past Honoured is kind of pointless. Now, Golden Lotus has a lot of useful items. In fact, pretty much all of the good level working recipes, like the leg enchants, even the crafted chest and gloves, all come from Golden Lotus. The same goes for tailoring. Tailoring's going to get their leg enchants and also their gloves and their chests that they can craft. At Revered with them, you're going to be able to get a quest called Battle Axe of the Thunder King, which will reward you with a chest that's 463. Now, if you take PvE seriously, you're going to have your crafted chest anyway, so you're not going to worry about the Golden Lotus for this, because 476 item level is the crafted chests, and they're not going to be too expensive. In fact, if you want to know what pre-raid BIS might actually look like, I'm going to be putting a video out probably tomorrow. I'm going to talk about how you can get the highest possible item level before you step into a raid. And for like leather DPS users, for example, that's going to be about 473 eye level. And for plate users, it can be as high as 475. But more on that very soon. The main reason you're going to do Golden Lotus Reputation is for the quest called the Final Power. You'll get this quest when you're exalted with them, and this is going to give a pre-raid BIS neck for absolutely everybody. It's 489 eye level, so it's the equivalent to Mogasham Vault's normal. And quite honestly, getting Golden Lotus Reputation is incredibly easy. You can just get a raid group together and literally farm Mogu all over Vale of Eternal Blossoms, and it will take a couple of hours and you'll be done. The good news is, while you're doing this, you'll also get Black Prince Reputation, which you are going to need for your Legendary Quest line, and you're going to get loads of your Lesser Charms that you need for bonus rolls. This is going to be a farm that most people do, and quite honestly, even if you need to go AFK for 15-20 minutes during it. No one's going to care, because you're likely going to have a full raid group. I personally am quite happy just to run around Gulai halls, just doing it on my own, but doing it as a group is definitely the way to go. So like I said at the start, Golden Lotus is one of those important ones to get that pre-raid neck. The Klaxxi get into at least honoured, as every single healer that plans on doing gold challenge modes is very, very important, because you're going to get restorative amber. If you're not aware, using these in gold challenge modes where it's all rush, 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 is extremely important, because you can get your full health and full mana bar back pretty bloody fast. Getting to honoured is also the blacksmithing reputation, so this is where you're going to get, most importantly, your living steel belt buckle. So the only way to be able to pump out belt buckles is firstly with an alchemy cooldown, which is a 24-hour cooldown, and you're going to need to get to honoured with Klaxxi to be able to get the recipe. But along with this, you're going to get the gloves and chest, which every single type of profession that can make armour can make gloves and chests, and you're also going to be able to make some 463 items, which are the equivalent to 5-man heroic eye level. But outside of doing this reputation as a blacksmith, the real reason you're doing this is for pre-raid bis rings. You're going to get a quest called Shadow of the Empire, which is going to give a 489 eye level ring, and again this is the equivalent to Mogasham Vault's normal gear. Questing from 89 to 90 in Dreadwaste is going to be incredibly important to be able to get a bit of a head start on this reputation. If you was to think about time spent per, say, 1,000 reputation gained, definitely doing dailies for a couple of weeks is the way to go. But if you're impatient and you want to grind this out as quickly as possible, even if it feels painful, you can get Dread Amber Shards. Now, Dread Amber Shards have got a low chance to drop from absolutely anything in Dread Wastes, and then you can turn 5 of these in for 250 reputation. Now, we'll have to wait and see with Classic, obviously, but these historically did have a terribly low drop chance. I've seen old comments floating around where people said they was averaging about 2.5k rep an hour, and other people saying they was only averaging about 1,000 rep an hour. But honestly, if you're really trying to get pre-raid bis and you just want to get everything done, let's face it, you're going to find a nice spot and you're just going to farm for hours and hours and hours while watching Netflix or Prime or whatever you're doing anyway. So I do see this being the way most people go. Just quest in Dread Waste from 89 to 90, get as much rep as you can, and then at 90, in between doing dungeons or whatever, literally just sit farming in Dread Wastes over and over again. Now, the good news is there's a lot of BOE epic drops which are going to be pre-raid bis for many classes, so I guess you could get lucky and you might get a BOE world drop because you're going to be killing a lot of mobs to get all this rep, so that could be worth considering. The Lorewalkers is a reputation really that revolves all around two things. Firstly, it's getting your flying disc mount that does look really cool, and secondly, is if you really enjoy doing archaeology, which you've got to be mad if you really enjoy doing archaeology. This is actually a really simple rep farm because you just go around all over the world finding scroll type things. When you complete a specific section of it, so say all of the Hosen related scrolls that you go around and find, then you'll get an item in your mailbox that you go and hand into Lorewalker Cho, and it gives you a load of reputation. You can literally get exalted in like an hour. It don't take long if you've got epic flying, and obviously you can fly in Pandaria, then you can just fly around and get all this done in no time at all. But quite honestly, unless you're trying to get the mount, or you actually want to get some of the archaeology items before you start leveling your archaeology in Pandaria, then this is one you kind of don't even need to worry about. Just do it one day when you're really bored. Order of the Cloud Serpent has been ruined ever so slightly by the Mist of Pandaria Digital Deluxe Edition, where we got the Cloud Serpent mount, the sort of Shark Erupted Tiger, and a boost, and all of that stuff. Because if you pre-ordered that bundle, then you can already fly on a Cloud Serpent, whereas actually in MoP, you had to get exalted with Order of the Cloud Serpent before you could ride any of the Cloud Serpents, including the ones that actually dropped from world bosses. Now, if you're dual crafting, you'll probably want to get exalted with these anyway, because you'll be able to make all of the 4 mounts, which are like the different gem-coloured mounts, and then combine them into one big jeweled Onyx Panther, which will sell for a decent amount of gold. But outside of being dual crafting and wanting to make those mounts, or specifically fly on Cloud Serpents, you don't really need to worry about it. There's zero PvE benefit to any of this whatsoever. Shado-Pan Assault is another kind of lackluster one, purely because there's no item at Exalted. Instead, you get a quest at the end when you're Exalted called Surprise Attack, and it's going to reward you with a mount instead of where we got a ring and a neck for the other 2 reputations. But if you're an enchanter, you definitely need Revered with Shado-Pan, because you're going to be able to get the big enchants on weapons, being Dancing Steel, Jade Spirit, and River's Song. Now, being one of the first enchanter to get these and being able to sell them is going to be incredibly profitable. But yeah, outside of being an enchanter, or obviously collecting all the mounts and you just want to get the achievements and get exalted with everyone anyway, there's no PvE benefit here, so you don't really need to worry about this. As in, you don't need to worry about getting it too soon. You're going to want exalted with all the reputations, obviously, but when you're first starting out, the ones that you need to focus on, this is not one of them. And I'll touch on the tillers, but the tillers is all to do with your farm, which you're going to have in Valley of the Four Winds at Half Hill Market. And the theme continues where at Exalted you're going to be able to get a mount, but then it's really just vanity items or toys that are going to go in your toy box, and then stuff that's actually going to be particularly useful for your farm. I've got a video coming out all about the farm and what you can grow and how you do it and the quest line that you need to progress through, but that'll be in a week or so. So again, like, subscribe if you don't want to miss that, because it should be pretty informative and you'll know exactly what you're doing at Half Hill Market, playing Farmville. Now, there are other reputations, but they don't come in until later in the phases, so obviously we'll talk about those reputations when we get to those phases. So for now, that's it. They're the reputations, the important ones, Klaxxi and Golden Lotus, and I've told you how to farm those. All the others, quite honestly, dailies. Like, that's it. Just do a few dailies here and there when you're bored, maybe to get lesser charms for your bonus rolls, and you'll eventually get exalted with them all anyway. As always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Consider joining the channel as a member to show that bit of extra support, and I'll see you on the next one.